So I think the best way to really get teenagers to be invested in your student ministry honestly comes down to story. I heard Dr. Russell Moore say one time that just made so much sense to me. He said, the Bible is not just a book of truths illustrated by stories. Instead, the Bible is a book that is the story of the gospel that's interpreted by truths. I think the number one thing that student pastors can do today is to preach the story of the Bible. So what we love to do is preaching from Genesis all the way through Revelation in 7 years, from 6th grade to 12th grade, helping students understand the narrative, overarching theme, the story of Scripture, of course, with Jesus as the main character. We see that Jesus does that with his disciples in Luke 24, where he says in verse 44 that these are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. The law of Moses, starting with Genesis and all the way through the prophets, through Malachi, Jesus takes them through this story that never even mentions his name, but he shows them how it's all interpreted about him. And I think that's so important, because when you have the discernment and you have the tools to be able to see Jesus as the main character throughout Scripture, then you can have the same lens, you can have the same filter to be able to see Jesus as the main character of your life. So I think when we are able to preach and teach through the story of Scripture, then we are able to see Jesus and how our life story connects with the story of his glory, which is the gospel story that God is writing all throughout not only history, but also through the future.